I have seen so many trailers for Thor Love and Thunder, and I had to go out of my way to find a trailer for this movie on YouTube. Disney really does rule marketing, don't they?
I'm back at it.
I can't remember the last time I seen a horror movie in theaters, or at least an original one. I think the last one I saw was Morbius? No, Scream, but that's a franchise movie. The last original horror movie I think I saw was maybe The Conjuring. So yeah, it's been a while. And I figure I'll give this movie a chance so, superhero movies are not the only movies I see this year.
I'll be home in the morning.
Where you going?
I'm staying over at Susie's tonight.
What's new? The flyer.
The papers call him the grabber.
I wish you wouldn't call him that.
You don't actually believe that story, do you? Because he can't hear you, and he doesn't really take kids that safe.
The Black Phone, brought to us by the good old boys at Blumhouse, who made such classics as Happy Death Day, Happy Death Day 2, and Truth or Dare.
What?
And a bunch of other underrated movies. Also directed by Scott Derrickson, who is pretty familiar with this genre, especially supernatural horrors. He worked on the Sinister movies. I don't think I've seen the second one, but I remember liking the first one. And so if you've seen those movies, you're going to get a similar feel with this one. This movie is about a kidnapper / serial killer terrorizing a suburb in Denver, Colorado.
Would you like to see a magic trick? And
I highly recommend, if you're interested in this movie, don't watch any trailers. I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything. I'm going to show a couple of clips from the trailer in this review. But trust me, if you want to go into the spoiler-free, trailers for this movie do show a lot of the big moments in this movie. Because I do think this movie is pretty decent. It feels like an old school horror movie. And not just because this movie takes place in the 70s, but it feels like this movie could have came out in the 70s. That's the vibe I get from this movie. From the opening scene of this movie with the music playing in the background and the credits rolling. It just has a very classic feel to it. I've heard of some people compare this movie to Stranger Things, but in movie form. And I definitely get that vibe. Right down to the kids being the main characters and the adults of the movie being completely useless.
What happened in your dream?
He was taken.
By a man with black balloons?
Yes.
We never released those details.
Why can't they ever just believe them? In fact, a lot of the best parts of this movie comes from the child performers, especially our main protagonist, Finney, and his sister Gwen, played by two kids who I'm not familiar with, but they were great in this. And that's not a compliment I use lightly, because I typically hate kids in everything. I don't have kids. Especially Finney, who is the one who gets abducted in this movie. You really root for him. And these two kids have to figure out the weird supernatural stuff that's going on in their town, while also dealing with the grabber, the serial abductor played by Ethan Hawke. And Ethan Hawke gives off a very creepy performance in this movie. He feels like Pennywise if Pennywise was just a normal dude.
Does it work? Not since I was a kid.
I'll scream. I'll scratch your face.
This face?
He has one scene in this movie that's not necessarily scary, just disturbing. It just made me feel ugh. However, one of the negatives I do have for this movie is that a lot of the horror doesn't really come from Ethan Hawke. Instead, it comes from some of the supernatural elements. And I just wish the movie focused a little bit more on Ethan Hawke. Overall, I think Black Phone is a very satisfying horror movie, especially if you haven't seen a good one in a long time. Definitely worth checking out. Just wish they went a little darker with it. Speaking of, another movie I wish was a little bit darker, Thor Love and Thunder.
Kids, get your popcorn now. Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson.
Now, I'm gonna be honest, I really was not looking forward to this movie. I respect Taika Waititi, and I think he could be very funny, but I didn't like Thor Ragnarok, and I have not rewatched that movie since. So I just chopped up the Thor movies, all of them, just not for me. But even though I haven't rewatched Thor Ragnarok, I did rewatch Infinity War. And I'm sorry, I just don't understand how Thor has gone from this character to this character.
And flick!
Oh,
You flick too hard, damn it!
Honestly, I don't understand how he's gone from this
And you are an old man and a fool!
to this.
Yes! We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Is this even the same guy? Now I understand not everyone loves those first two Thor movies. Hell, even the cast themselves don't like those Thor movies.
Yeah, I'd done it a few times, this character, and it kind of got very sick of myself as that character. And I called up our director and I said, look, I'm sick of myself. And he said, so am I.
But in Thor Ragnarok, as well as this movie, it feels like I'm not watching Thor the character, instead I'm just watching Chris Hemsworth. I mean, it's been already said that Chris Hemsworth has improvised a lot of his lines in Thor Ragnarok, and that's fine, but I think there's a big tonal shift in both that movie and this movie. And that's a big problem I have with other returning characters like Natalie Portman.
Jane?
She doesn't feel like the same character. Now, to be fair, it's been a while since we've seen her. We haven't seen her since Thor the Dark World. Well, technically, Endgame, but I'm gonna count Thor the Dark World as the last time we really saw her. And she doesn't feel like the same character. Again, it doesn't really feel like Jane Foster. It feels like Natalie Portman improvising lines. Now, I know comedy is subjective, but I just couldn't get down with so many of the comedy beats in this movie.
And flick.
Oh,
You flick too hard, damn it!
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Especially when this movie is adapting such a dark storyline from the comics. And that's the one thing I was slightly interested in going into this movie, seeing Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. And I will at least say in that regard, this movie didn't disappoint. Like, Christian Bale is probably my favorite part of this movie. And he's the best Thor villain we've had since probably Loki, which I know isn't saying much, but he's still pretty entertaining. Anytime he showed up on screen, my eyes were on him.
The only ones who gods care about is themselves.
So this is my vow.
All gods will die.
But it was such a tonal shift between the comedy and when he would show up. It felt like two different movies. Now, I will say, the directing in this movie and the cinematography and the scenery, this movie looks goddamn gorgeous, and so did Thor Ragnarok. That's probably the other thing I really like about these movies directed by Taika Waititi. He knows how to make a damn good looking movie. These movies are straight up, not just comic book covers, but just damn rock covers. As well as the action scenes, which are still pretty creative. I can't take away that from these movies. But I just think overall, these movies are just not for me. Aww. This movie really crossed the line for me from adding jokes to Thor to making Thor a joke. There are so many comic relief characters or lighthearted characters in the MCU now. Everything just really feels the same. No one feels unique anymore. I remember back in the day when Avengers first came out in 2012, people used to say, oh, MCU movies are for kids, DC's for adults. And I just brushed that off at the time, but now it kinda feels like that. Thanks for watching this video once again, guys. Don't forget to give me a like. And I want to know, what was the most disappointing movie that you guys have watched this year? Let me know in the comments down below. Sorry I've been taking so long with my videos. I'm trying to get this up consistently, but it's pretty tough. Appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And share my videos with others who you think might like it. Once again, this is Infinite Repeat. I've been Nate. Stay up.